of the show for any length of time knows how much we love to promote St. Louis and how much we love to promote St. Louis writers. Gianna Jacobson, is that right?
That's right.
You are the publisher of a literary magazine here in town?
December Magazine.
December Magazine, and you've been doing this since when?
December's been around itself since 1958, but then it died in the 80s, and we brought it to St. Louis and revived it in 2013. So we've had 9 issues since the revival.
Was this always in St. Louis, or was this
No, it started in Iowa City. For people who had just graduated from the Iowa Writers Workshop started it, and then one of them moved it to Chicago, and one guy, Kurt Johnson, ran it out of his house in Chicago for the next 40-something years.
Right.
And then he died. And there was an independent press that went with it, and the executive of his estate put it both up for sale, and we put it together a nonprofit literary organization in St. Louis to buy the assets and move it to St. Louis.
Now you've written
and revive it.
You've written for the New York Times and some other magazines. You're
right.
Based
have
here
a journalism background, but
based here in St. Louis.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, the Iowa Workshop is considered. That's the gold
Pinnacle,
standard
right.
of workshops. So December is published twice a year.
Comes out twice a year. Every issue has stories, essays, poetry, and visual art.
Are the people who write for it just from St. Louis, or are they all over?
All over the world, literally. We get submissions from every country. Every issue has at least a couple of St. Louisans in it, but that happens very organically and naturally. St. Louis is a great city to be a writer. We have great writers in St. Louis.
Right.
We read blindly, so we don't know who they are when they're submitting.
Really?
But it happens very naturally that every issue ends up with at least a couple of St. Louisans.
Now, you call it a magazine, but it's more or less of a soft-covered book in a sense.
Right. It reads more like an anthology, but according to Library of Congress rules, and it has the same name each time it comes out. So when the 4 founders were starting it, they thought they were going to do it every month, and they changed the name every month. So the first month was in December, and then they didn't get around to it again until May, so they stuck with December.
Now, when is it poetry? Is it short stories?
It's a little of everything. It's kind of a sampler platter for an avid reader. There's something in it for everybody. I would say there's never an issue that every person would love everything in that issue, but there's something that everybody would love.
Comes out twice a year.
Twice a year.
How do you sign up for this? How does one sign up for this?
Mostly through subscriptions through our website, which is decembermag.org.
Right.
We are available in local bookstores, Left Bank, Subterranean, a couple of others.
Yeah. And you people submit blindly to you? They just do. Send it in and say, what do you think?
We get about 12 submissions a day.
Really?
From October to May.
Yeah. And now you guys pay. If something's picked?
We do. We pay our contributors, and that's a big deal in the literary journal world. There are about 475 literary journals out there, the bulk of which belong to a university or college writing program.
Right.
And most don't pay other than in contributor copies. We're independent. We're bureaucracy-free, but we really believe in paying writers and artists for their work.
Sure.
So we're developing a writers and artists compensation fund to make sure that we can pay our contributors in perpetuity.
That is a great story. We'll get to that in a second. DecemberMag, M-A-G.org?
.org, right.
DecemberMag.org. And a subscription is how much?
$20 for 1 year,
For 1 year.
$38 for 2. That's 2 issues in a year.
That's a great deal.
Thank you.
Okay.
It is.
I have a lot of writer friends. I have a lot of writer in the family.
Good.
They've never been able to answer this question for me. What's the difference between a short story and a regular story? Because some short stories are 300 pages long and some regular stories are 100 pages long.
Well, if it's 300 pages long, it's a book.
Okay. So, okay. All right. So there is no
It's a
definition
novel.
of a short story.
No.
Okay.
No. There's flash fiction, which is super short, but the jury's even still out on what constitutes flash fiction. Some people say it's 500 words. Some would say it's 1,500. Everybody kind of makes their own rules.
What's the difference between a novel and a novella?
A novella is shorter. It's probably less than 80 pages.
You writers, you come up with all these funky
pages.
things. Okay,
Sure.
all right. All right, now what's
There's a lot of gray area.
All right, what's coming up with this thing you are coming up at the Sheldon Concert Hall?
Well, 2018 is the 60th anniversary of the first issue of December, so we want to really celebrate that. And we're celebrating by creating this Artists and Writers Compensation Fund.
Okay.
And we're going to have 2 events, and the first is our big kickoff event with Mandy Gonzalez, who is starring as Angelica Schuyler in Hamilton on Broadway.
Right.
And she's coming to St. Louis for a one-night-only benefit concert.
How did you score her to come to St. Louis?
Sally Van Doren is a St. Louis area poet, and she's one of our advisory editors, and we've published her poetry a couple of times. And Sally's married to John Van Doren, who's an art dealer, had an art gallery in St. Louis for many years, and now has a gallery in New York. And he represents an artist named Doug Malini, who's Mandy's husband. So Sally and John had a 30th anniversary party last summer. And I went to the party, and as a gift for their anniversary, Mandy came and sang to the guests.
Sure.
And she was just amazing. She has Dina Menzel, Barbara Streisand, once-in-a-generation kind of voice.
Right.
And so we started talking about...
So you hoodwinked her in the corner of the bathroom and said, get to St. Louis.
We did.
Right. All right, so
she's very agreeable.
She's going to be in town Monday, April 16th.
Right.
For a concert.
For a concert.
At
Open
the
to
Sheldon.
the public. Right.
Which is fantastic. Right?
It's great.
Great acoustics.
Best venue in town.
Right, absolutely. One night only, and all the money is going to go to this Writers' Compensation Fund?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so where do we get tickets for this?
MetroTix is the general ticket sales.
Right.
And we have patron tickets and sponsor tickets that will get people into a meet and greet party with Mandy after the concert.
Oh, my goodness.
And those are available on our website at decembermag.org.
And how much are tickets?
They range from $35 tickets for working writers and artists to $100 for general admission to $250 up to however much somebody wants to spend for our patron level tickets.
What is the definition of a working writer? I write my tweets. Does that count as a working writer?
We're operating on the honor system. So if somebody defines themselves as a working writer or artist, that's good enough for us.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, you said two things. You have something else, too?
We're having a party in December at the Zach Ballroom, Urban Ballroom.
Well, we can talk about that as we
talk about that when it gets closer.
Get a little closer. Okay, so December Magazine is having a party in December, but they're also having a party in April 16th.
April 16th.
Day after your taxes are due, Monday, April 16th. They're probably due on Monday because it's a Saturday. 7 p.m., Sheldon Concert Hall, MetroTix for tickets.
MetroTix for regular tickets. decembermag.org for patron tickets and working writer and artist tickets.
A literary legacy magazine since 1958, and it's based here in St. Louis, and it's world known.
It is, but St. Louis is a great literary community.
Why is St. Louis such a great literary community?
It's interesting. You could go to a literary event almost every night of the week if you wanted to in St. Louis. There's just a lot of support for it. It's an inexpensive place to live.
Yeah.
There's a great St. Louis Poetry Center. The county library is very supportive of emerging writers.
Decembermag.org, April 16th. For more information, decembermag.org. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right.